the joint regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council, and the Mayor and City Council acting as a successor agency to the redevelopment agency of the City of San Bernardino. We call to order this meeting as we commence. I think we'll probably eliminate that statement. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and ask that you join me in prayer, and then I will lead in the Pledge of Allegiance. So tonight, I want to share with you a scripture out of Psalm 91 from the New King James Version. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the mighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress. God, in him will I trust. Surely he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you shall take refuge. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. So let's pray for a moment, please. Lord, you are the source of all wisdom, and we pray that you would impart your wisdom tonight to our city council, our government leaders here in this community, that they may pursue the welfare of this city, the city of San Bernardino, the good of every citizen. Give us all the wisdom of Solomon to provide equal opportunity for everyone to succeed in their work, reach their goals, and pursue their dreams. May we work tirelessly to untangle the many social issues which plague our community. Give us wisdom and the ability to work together with men and women of opposing persuasions to seek the welfare of our community. When there are moments of distress, I ask, dear God, that you bring healing to our community. When there are moments of affliction, that you would bring peace. And that when there are moments unknown of tomorrow, that you would bring serenity to our community. This we ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Would you please stand? And if you have a flag nearby, we'll say.
Top of City Hall.
Ready, begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. City Attorney, is there anything to report from closed session?
Mayor, we do have reportable action this evening. We gave the council an update on some matters of pending litigation. I'd also like to announce that by a unanimous vote of the City Council, the City Council has offered a settlement to the city's former city manager, Ms. Andrea Miller. They have settled that case for the severance package that she was due under her contract for a total sum of $750,000. That's all the reportable action that I have.
Very good. Thank you. Moving on to our public comments. Ms. Rocha, would you please inform the council of how we're processing the public comments?
Yes, so I want to note for the record that the written public comment received for tonight's meeting has been provided to the mayor and the city council and made available on the city's website in the city clerk office documents. I have received a request by Councilmember Nickel to read a comment into the record. And as I mentioned earlier, we provided an opportunity for the public to submit a recorded message for the public comment section of the agenda. I received 3 recorded messages and they are all under 3 minutes. Mayor, would you like to start off with Councilmember Nickel or the recorded comments?
Let's go with the recorded comments.
Okay. Here's the first comment.
Paige Miller, calling in this evening. Thank you, first of all, to our first responders, law enforcement, medical personnel, and city and essential service workers for hanging in there. We truly appreciate everything that all community members are doing. At this time, I would like to request from the city manager or the city council to request the city manager for an update on the animal shelter, on the expenditures that were approved, I believe last November, December. I believe that was roofing, electrical. The community would like an update. Have those issues been completed? What's the cost? There was also going to be a search for an animal services director. Has that been successfully completed? What is the status on that? Would like to encourage, if this is not going to be happening, that City Council revisit the unsolicited proposal submitted by the San Bernardino Animal Care Foundation, presented by Alice Chow. Had this been implemented, this would have already been a done deal and probably a very good thing for the city. So please let the community know what the status is on all of these issues. Would like to also hear the council and city manager perhaps encourage fostering. This has been very successful. It is clear to our understanding several of these shelters throughout the United States. Long Beach, California, New York City, Colorado Springs, Colorado. People are finding during this time of isolation that fostering is a way that is really beneficial for all involved. So, and a special thank you also to those rescue groups. You are unsung heroes, and you are out there making sure that the animals are taken care of, practicing social distancing, of course, from other people. So take care, and we'd like this issue addressed and put on the agenda and update something. There hasn't been anything for quite some time. So thank you very much.
Okay, the next one in just a moment. The second one.
Treasurer Ortiz, this is my public meeting comment. Mayor and Council, coming out of closed session, I really hope you did the right thing. We can no longer afford to pay for John Valdivia. And that is what we have continued to do for over a year and a half. He is nothing more than a liability to this city. And you can see today by the new claims that have come out from his employee. How much longer will you allow this? It is one thing to step down and make a comment. It is another thing to step up as a city council and do something. And you know what? It is no longer acceptable to hear you have no power, you can't do anything, especially when four of you, Teddy and Sandra and Fred and Henry, are out there already trying to campaign to be the mayor when you can't even do your job as city council members and protect the residents. We're falling into a fiscal fiasco with this current crisis. You are looking at a loss of 39% of our revenue in this year by taxes and the TOT if we can't get on board with what's going on. But where is any of that discussion happening? No, what you're doing is politicizing your position to become the mayor of San Bernardino. Are you out of your mind? You are going to break this city. We are hemorrhaging from all of this potential litigation. Almost $1 million to the former manager. That's where the projections were going. And what do you think will come of 6 additional lawsuits to this city, plus the claims of damages by Gigi and Gary? We are in the midst of a crisis when our residents don't know where their next paycheck is coming from, when they don't know how to pay their mortgage, when they don't know how to properly make sure their children have the technology to go to school online right now. And this is what we're dealing with, a distraction, failed and lacking responses. You know, we have an entire homeless population that is still on the streets of San Bernardino. They are roaming around, and those of us that have the resources are getting sick, and yet you leave the rest of San Bernardino open to possible contamination. You've done no emergency management measures to put homeless people in a hotel, to provide hand washing stations on the street. You are failing us. Everything that we thought would come to a head financially in 2 years has now been expedited by this pandemic. And once again, San Bernardino to heed the call. Please do something.
And this is the, let's see, one more comment.
Public meeting comment. Mayor and council, coming out of closed session, I really hope you.
Give me one moment.
Same one. We don't want to
Yeah.
hear that again.
Yes, my name is Frank. Last name is Audi, and I live in the north side of the city at Colston Street. We have had a problem with the company that come into our car from behind our garage, which is our property. We pay the mortgage for since 2003. If they go and report that it was parking in a fire lane somewhere else. So I go search the other place, and it is not existing at all. There is no such address that they claim they tow my car from. Then I spoke to the police that time, and a police sergeant. Okay, and he gave me the same story like other people. It's like taken to court. This is a private tow. So the tow company took advantage of that. We go complain to the police, and the police by their story that they were parking in a fire lane. And then last Friday, they do it for the 7th time. And every time we pay about 400, $400. The last time, I'm out of work because of COVID, okay, for almost a month now. So I didn't have money, and we lost our share in the stock market. So I didn't have no money. So I left the car for them because they didn't want to take my check. At least it was Friday. They didn't want to take my check, so I left the car for them. So I think we're living in a civilized city. Okay, I have a bad problem with the city. Last time I called the police was on July. Yes, last time I called him, it was on July 2nd. The police showed up on July 14th. I swear to God, I'm not lying. Okay, so every time I called them, they said there's somebody killing somebody somewhere else, the domestic abuse or something like that. And, they don't want to show up. By their count, the horses in San Bernardino would have been perished in times over. Okay, so somebody had to do something about that because I had my office in the city of San Bernardino at Warman. Then I moved it to Grand Terrace. Now Grand Terrace is a heaven. Every time we call, the police takes care of the problem, so there's no problems here. But when the police doesn't take care of the problem, but problems accumulate. Okay. And the last time I spoke to the city, they said, move out. And I said, I cannot move my house. So I don't think this is the way the city is supposed to deal with citizens. Okay, I'm paying my taxes, and okay, thank you.
And that is it for the recorded messages.
Okay, thank you. Let's get right into our public hearings portion. It's item number 1.
Mr. Mayor, this is
I wanna
Councilman Nickel. I have a public
Oh, I'm
comment.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Councilman Nickel. Sorry.
Yeah, actually, I have two, but the first is a letter that I've been asked to read. This is directed to the city council and city staff, specifically Director of Community Development, Mr. Huntley. It's from Len Ware, President of the Muscogee Neighborhood Association, Joyce Seeger, President of the Blair Park Neighborhood Association, and Amelia Lopez, President of the Neighborhood Association Council. And this is in regard to the county TAD building at 27th Street and Little Mountain Drive. It reads as follows. We have spoken to you, the city council, many times on this issue. We are good with the county building going up, but we are not with its intended use. The San Bernardino County Office of Transitional Assistance and developer Scott Beard have misrepresented the appropriateness of this location from the beginning. Now we are informing you that the city may be in violation of federal and state law. The facility is not compliant with federal and state statutes and the Americans with Disabilities Act requirements. The building is 75% funded by state and federal money, and that funding requires compliance with state and federal statutes. There is an Omnitrans stop at Highland and Muscogee, but the walk to the TAD building is 9 blocks without sidewalks. The other Omnitrans stop is at Highland and Mount Vernon, but that walk to the TAD building requires walking over the 27th Street overpass over the 215 freeway, where there is no pedestrian walkway. We are in contact with the Health and Human Services Office in Sacramento, and they have quoted to us 2 parts of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I quote, first, no qualified individual with a disability shall, because a public entity's facilities are inaccessible to or unusable by individuals with disabilities, be excluded from participation in or be denied the benefits of the services, programs, or activities of a public entity, or be subjected to discrimination by any public entity. A public entity shall operate each service, program, or activity so that the service, program, or activity, when viewed in its entirety, is readily accessible to and usable by individuals with disabilities. The letter states that without justification for the lack of access to this facility, based on the entirety of the county's programs and services, there is a risk of discriminatory behavior against persons with disabilities living in the county and city of San Bernardino. We understand that the county can use preemption, but if they do, and the city of San Bernardino allows this, we have been told that the city is setting itself up for lawsuits. We believe this is very serious and the city needs to focus on it. The second comment I received has to do with the location of homeless individuals at a Super 8 motel in our city. This is one of 2 locations that I understand within the county that will be used to house homeless individuals in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. The problem is that my understanding from the information I've received, these are homeless individuals, not just from the city of San Bernardino, but elsewhere. And the likelihood that these individuals will remain in our city after the COVID-19 outbreak is rather high. So the concern is whether or not there is an opportunity to engage the county to consider other locations other than San Bernardino, which currently carries the lion's share burden of homeless in the county on a per capita basis. More than 40% of the homeless live in a city with less than 10% of the population of the county. Or whether or not we can impose on the county a requirement or request of the county, a requirement that we document those homeless individuals, which cities they have come from, and after this COVID-19 crisis is over, ensure those individuals are taken back to the cities they came from. I would like to direct the city manager to look into this matter and perhaps—
Henry, let me stop you. I hear you loud and clear. Let's go ahead and move on if you're done with your comment, because we can talk about that during items to be referred to committee.
No, I think this is important enough that
Dan,
we need
you're
to
out of
address.
order. Just a moment, please. I'm not done. There's a portion for you to talk about that, Henry. We're not trying to, we just need to get on to.
I would request at the end of the agenda
Okay.
during our
We'll add that
request
to
that
the-
I have an opportunity.
All
to
right,
make
no
that
problem.
request.
No problem, sir.
Okay,
No problem.
thank you.
Okay, let's move on to our public hearing.
Mayor, point of order, please.
Yes, Fred.
I would like
Oops.
Your
this.
mic shut off.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Am I up?
You're in it.
Oh, I'm on. I should be. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
My point is simply that I understand this is a very important issue and something that I think a lot of people have been contacted about. I think if we're going to talk about a comment that came in, I think we all received that same comment, and I think that ought to be told who it came from. It's coming across as if it's Henry's idea to deal with this, and if it is, great. But I think you ought to identify, if you're saying that was a public comment that came to you that you were asked to read or
Fine.
to, disseminate at public comments, that you ought to identify where it came from.
Henry, you want to respond to that? Or just,
I
Henry?
believe this is coming from the county. We
Okay.
can verify, but this is from county officials. I think
No,
Cassandra
that's not my point,
Thomas,
Henry.
I believe Cassandra Thomas
Henry,
verified this
I agree.
afternoon. Fred, if I may continue, I am responding to your question. My understanding is Cassandra Thomas has verified, in fact, this is occurring.
I understand.
Multiple constituents have contacted me today, including business owners wanting to verify this. I just spoke to the city manager shortly before this meeting and did get verification, and that's why I'm passing this on. This is a general comment by our businesses.
why don't we do
many on
this?
Hospitality
Why don't-
Lane and
Fred?
elsewhere.
Fred and Henry,
I'm aware of that, but if this is public comments and you made quite a statement, and
Okay.
that's okay. 'cause
why don't we go ahead and move on, guys?
I've concluded. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go into our public hearings portions.
Mayor,
This is
if I may,
yes, ma'am.
I am so sorry. My apologies. I forgot to add one reportable action from closed session. We did have council member Sandra Ibarra recuse herself from discussing the item on the real property, and that's because her employer is directly involved in that negotiation. And so for the record, she did not participate. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for making that update. Thank you. Public hearing portion, tonight's calendar, amendment to conditions of 1906 for subdivision 16-08, tentative parcel map 19814 and development permit type D 16-26. The public hearing is now open at approximately 7:24 p.m. Could I please get a staff report on this item?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the item that we're considering tonight is a public hearing and adoption of a resolution for an amendment to the conditions of approval for the Hillwood development located in the 1400 block of South Waterman. And the proposed amendments to the condition are related to two things. One is an update to the condition to form a landscape maintenance district. We're actually proposing that we allow the applicant to annex into an existing community facilities district. And secondly, we are asking through the resolution that the council find the project categorically exempt under CEQA. The item was taken to the Planning Commission back in August of 2019, and a recommendation came out of that meeting to the council. This was actually in front of the council back in October of 2019, but I believe the item was tabled. So tonight, what we're looking to do is have you consider once again to go ahead and amend these conditions. At this point, the developer of this property has met all of the conditions with the exception of formation of that landscape maintenance district. We are really looking to get this project through so that the developer can kind of move forward with tenants and things that they're trying to do to bring some new revenue and jobs into our city. So what we are, I know there was a lot of information in the staff report to talk about the differences between a landscape maintenance district and a community facilities district. Just, if I may, Mayor, a 30-second kind of overview. The landscape maintenance districts have quite a few more limitations in terms of what we are able to assess the property for ongoing maintenance. The other piece of that is that there is a general benefit determination that comes with an LMD. And so there is a piece of the ongoing financial support that then would be on the burden of the city. With the CFD, we're actually able to expand the facilities, the types of facilities, and all of those facilities then are tied back to the property that's assessed for the maintenance. So that is a really quick, really oversimplified version. But at this point, we have notified all of the property owners within 500 feet of the property in question for this change of condition. And I'm open for any questions if we need to.
Okay, before we get into questions, Ms. City Clerk, do we have any public speakers on this that have registered a comment card on this matter?
No, I did not receive anybody.
Okay, thank you. We'll open it up to the council members for questions, deliberation, or is there a motion for approval?
I'll move approval.
I'll second that.
For the benefit of the public, I think it'd be appropriate to discuss a little bit of the difference between what inherently follows with a CFD and what inherently follows with an LMD. So if you could touch back again, Ms. Jensen, concerning a CFD's 5, 10, or 15% that the city would be obligated to pay or fund for the full maintenance of the for, in this case, the meridian, the center divider.
Median.
Explain that to us. The median.
Sure. So I am going to, before I make the attempt, let you know that we also have Shane Spicer, who is our special districts consultant, online with us tonight. The median improvements that were done through this project expand not only the length of the project, but also beyond the property that the property that was developed. The landscape maintenance district structure for assessing fees for ongoing maintenance limits the city to some very specific, limits the assessments to the improvements that specifically benefit the property owner. And based on the classification of the street that those benefits are constructed on, there is a general benefit to the public that is assessed, and the portion of those costs have to be paid for by the city. So depending on the classification of the street, the general benefit may be 5%, it may be 10%, maybe 15%. Shane, are you there?
Well, in the case of Waterman Avenue being a major arterial in the city, I think that the city would have to pay 15% under a landscape maintenance district. But under a community facilities district, the city would not be liable for any of that. They would maintain, or their contractor that the city contracts with would maintain, but none of that money to pay for those contractors would come from city coffers, right?
That's correct.
That's what I wanted to make sure. And there is in no way, shape, or form, the developer is not offloading any of its responsibility to the city or to some other contractor. This under a CFD, the sole funding will come from the I guess the taxes in a way being imposed on whoever the landlord is there. Not the landlord, the owner, right?
The property owner that is tied to that specific district area, and that those medians have been identified as part of that district, they will be financially supporting the maintenance of that district through special assessments on the property.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Jim?
I have some quick
Go ahead, Jim.
I think it's Fred.
Go ahead, Jim.
Well,
Go ahead, Jim.
actually, okay. I just wanted to make a comment that the community facilities district it sort of goes along with your property taxes. In other words, they pay for the any special traffic signal maintenance, the street maintenance, parks, whatever we wanted to assess on that. Not just the median. The median more or less goes along with the landscape maintenance district. So the CFD is a much more comprehensive, and plus it really takes the burden off the city and onto the property owner. Thank you.
Okay, Fred?
Yeah, my comment only is, or kind of a question is, under item 9 in the backup material, it talks about the changes. It lists the changes, and it talks about we've struck the word perpetuity that shall improve the landscape medians and required. They've struck out install and maintain in perpetuity. And then at the end of the thing, it says expense and assure proper maintenance over the long term. Perpetuity to me is forever, and long term I think needs to be defined. That's my question. Is long term the same as in perpetuity? I don't think so, but in this context, is it?
So yes, the intent is that this district will now be assessed on this property forever. And the one piece of the puzzle is that if there are other developments that come into the area that might share part of that cost later, is something that might be determined. But at this point, this developer would be assessed annually from now until there's no cost related to it, which will, so.
Okay, any other questions, further questions?
Well, I understand that, but is there a reason why we would take out the word perpetuity and put in long term? And can we replace the long term with perpetuity?
If I might add, Chris.
Go ahead.
Shane Spicer with Spicer Consulting. If I might add, I think based on the statute, you would assess them for as long as services are being provided. So perpetuity does not describe that, as if services were no longer being provided, they'd still be assessed. So it should be as services are being provided.
So again, then, does that mean that we should clarify that language? Instead of for long term, as long as services are being provided?
That sounds reasonable.
I don't know. I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill here, but.
Okay, well then.
Well, no,
Yeah.
Words matter though.
Staff, what's your recommendation? If we give our public works director and city manager that oversight, what say you, staff?
I didn't get an answer from Mr. Spicer if long-term could be replaced with, what'd you say, as long as services are being provided?
I believe that would be appropriate, Chris. If you think that that's a change that can be done, I think that makes sense.
Is that more clear is all?
It would
That's
be
clear.
consistent.
That's clear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Fred, would you like to make that motion and with that caveat?
Yes, I made the motion
Second on that?
to approve with that.
I second it.
Great.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Councilman Figueroa.
Yeah, and how are services provided being defined? So if we don't provide services for a month or two, is that now void the whole thing?
No, the intent would be for providing maintenance over that fiscal year. So that's what the assessment's for.
And another question, as alluded to earlier, this was discussed back in October 2nd, and the council decided to table it at that time. Since then, we haven't had a vote to untable it, I guess. So how did it make it back its way onto the agenda without the council actually making the decision to bring this back?
So I had requested, Councilmember Figueroa, that it be brought back for consideration again. We've been working with the developer on this. So looking at the timelines and some of the things that I know the developer is trying to get done, like I said, to get business into the facility that they've constructed, we brought it back at this time. I think there were some questions from what I could gather from history before my time about those differences between the LMD and CFD. So I think staff felt like if we maybe helped answer those, that it would be worth considering again so that we could move the project forward. So,
Point of order.
So then, and then just going back to the original, when was this originally decided? Back in 2017, I believe, is the agreement that was made.
Um,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so part of the agreement back then was that they were going to take the space that used to occupy, or the golf course used to be located at. And part of that agreement was that because they would be occupying the location of the previous golf course, that they would maintain the medians in perpetuity. I have a belief, I don't know, we don't have a parallel universe to really kind of compare or not, but I have a belief that the council at that time wouldn't have agreed to it if they had known that the medians would not be maintained. We lost a golf course, so that was part of the agreement, is that they would maintain some of the medians, and so now they're not going to be held responsible for that. That's kind of what happened.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. Correct. So they are in agreement that they will maintain the medians, not only in front of their property, but all of the medians that were improved through the development of this project. Now, and as long as we're, servicing them.
So as long as we're servicing them, the city's servicing them.
So they're in public right of way. So we own that right of way. It's dedicated to us. So we're responsible for the maintenance, but they fund the maintenance.
And what do some of the other areas of the city that we're responsible for maintaining look like as well?
So specifically medians, or?
Yes, because I drive, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I drive through certain streets in the city. University Parkway is a perfect example. I'm not sure, are we responsible for the median on University Parkway?
Yeah, I believe that we are.
And what does that look like?
I haven't been down there recently, but my assumption is that it's not, needs some assistance. So
our track record really doesn't, see, this is my concern, because Waterman Avenue is a main thoroughway for our city. My concern is that it's now going to turn into what I really don't want it to look like. And so we really need to hold, our city very accountable for that. Right. Another question that I know was usually coming up was the water line, that they couldn't connect to the water line to the median. What about that? Have we been able to connect to the water line?
So there was a portion of the water line, yes, that they were able to connect to. I know that there were some areas where we thought that there were existing lines and there were not. So currently there is some other work being done, and we are having the through the railroad, through BNSF, and I think that we're actually having sleeves placed in. Alex, do you want to kind of share what's going on with that?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, just to answer the questions. Yes, there is. We find, like what Chris says, we find some lines that we installed in the median, and then now part of the railroad track, or the red line to Redlands, we are installing as part of that project. We have the contractor that doing the utility relocation for under the track is to connect the water line. Right now, if you notice, that is Orange Show is closed for the installation of all the storm drain and everything like that. So now is the perfect time for us to install the lines. They will be installing these sleeves for us, and we will connect all the medians to the water.
Again, part of the agreement for losing the golf course is that they would maintain it in perpetuity. I don't see that language really being upheld there. I think that was the original agreement, and the original agreement should be honored, is my position. That's all I have to say.
Can I, Councilman Figueroa, if you don't mind, the condition of approval for the development is that to do an land maintenance assessment district is for them to pay into it for the maintenance of the median. So the city take over the maintenance, they pay for it. So now is what's the item is in front of you is just changing that to CFD, because now with the CFD, we do not have to pay anything from general fund to maintain these medians. So is it still the same thing as just the mechanism of what is we going to be doing is much better for us, for the city at the long run. So it's the same exact thing. As long as this property is in existence, they will be paying in their taxes yearly the fees to maintain the medians.
Okay,
And a
Councilmember
question.
Moore.
So with the CFD, and thank you for once again telling us, Alex, pretty much they're going to be assessed on their property taxes. We know that the property taxes don't come to the city. So how would them maintaining the CFD compare to the money that we would have paid to maintain the medians? Like, does that question make sense to you?
I understand the
Because
question.
we don't get property taxes, yeah.
I understand the questions. I'll let Shane answer that question since he's the expert in this area. So Shane?
Okay.
Yes, thank you. So the difference is that using the landscape maintenance district, as Chris had mentioned, will require that the city would have to come out of the general fund for a portion of that, and that's to be determined based on an assessment calculation pursuant to Proposition 218. By using the CFD model, the entire burden of the maintenance costs would be placed on the property for the maintenance, and no money be required by the city to use out of the general fund for those services.
If I may, I think Ms. Ibarra has it confused. The CFD is not the same as a property tax. And you're right, we're not getting property taxes, but this is a community facilities district that does go directly to the city, right?
Goes to county.
No, it goes to the city.
It didn't, yeah.
It does come to the city, so they are assessed on the county tax roll, and the county remits what is collected to the city. And those funds that are collected from the property are specific to that district. We have an extremely complex spreadsheet and separate fund numbers within our financial system, where we track not only these CFDs, but also our 70 LMDs that were established previously. So
Okay, so clarification, then we are getting a portion of that property taxes the county's collecting back into our city coffers under our CFD.
the entire assessment that we request the county to collect comes to the city, not a portion, the entire assessment.
And it's not a property tax. It's a community facilities district. Fee.
Okay, are there any other questions? Otherwise, we have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead. How about this? Do we need a roll call, or if there's any objections to it, please so state.
Object.
Councilman Figueroa? Anybody else? Madam City Clerk, if you would record his objection, it's so we can expedite it. Okay, moving on to item number 2. Addendum to final environmental impact report, specific plan amendment 19-01 and development permit type P 19-06, the IE Hub Center project. Let's go ahead and open this hearing up at 7:46. Could I get a staff report, please, on this item?
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Oliver Mojica will go ahead and provide the presentation. He's our planning manager. For the council's benefit, we also have Jeffrey Rosenhain. He's the applicant who's available if you have any questions. We also have Kevin Thompson with us tonight also, if you have any questions on the environmental dock. So Oliver.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Item number 2 involves specific plan amendment 1901 and development permit 19-06. It's for the property located at 1066 North Tippecanoe Avenue. The property contains approximately 15 acres and it's located about 1,000 feet south of Baseline Avenue. The proposal is to construct and operate a truck trailer storage facility, which also includes a 7,000 square foot office shop and office and shop repair building. The proposal is to change the specific plan land use designation from neighborhood residential to employment. By way of background, you may recall that back in December of 2016, the Waterman Baseline Specific Plan was adopted, which covered approximately 700 acres that ran from kind of the spine of Waterman up to Baseline down to approximately 8th Street. Again, the proposal is for to transform it. So this is we have a couple of renderings that are coming up on the next slides. This is from the frontage of Tippecanoe Avenue. The architectural design is kind of a stylish retro, if you will. This is looking towards the building. This would be across. This was looking if you're across the street from Tippecanoe, and the next one is looking towards the service bays, which are on the back side of the building or structure. We can stay on this one for a little bit, Mitch, by way of reference here. Just shows you where the project site is located. You'll see Tippecanoe Avenue. That's on the right-hand side, which is the eastern boundary. The southern boundary and the western boundaries are both the flood control channels that are there existing. To the north is it's a single-family residential zones, or they're also within, if I may, within the specific plan area, and those are zoned for the neighborhood residential. The kind of the rationale with this item is that kind of the triangular shape combined with the kind of the condition of the housing market. The applicant has utilized a proposal rather than doing a large industrial building, if you will. I will also say that the proposed employment zone that is being requested here not only allows for the uses that are within the industrial light zone, but it also allows for multifamily residential, for multifamily units and such. The applicant has proposed this basically as a way to utilize the property while we'll see if the housing market ever turns. The site does have some challenges because of its location and kind of its shape, but feeling that if we do utilize this as a parking and trailer facility for a period of time, and if a time came to redevelop the site, it would not involve the demolish of large industrial structures. So that was kind of the initial point to it. Our next slide, let's see what we have here. This shows the graphic on the left is the current, how it stands now. And if you look to on the exhibit on the right-hand side, on the far right, you'll notice that that triangular piece that is shaded red, that is the area that is being proposed to be redesignated to employment zone. And so I certainly answered some questions. This item was presented to the Planning Commission on March the 10th. By a vote of 5-1, they adopted the resolution 2013 to recommendation to the City Council to adopt the addendum to the environmental impact report, which I will expand a little bit. As part of the original specific plan, there was an extensive environmental impact report that was prepared. The addendum analyzed the difference between this truck storage facility and ultimately possibly either a multifamily or single family residential development. And actually, when you look at all the potential impacts that may be involved, air quality, noise, traffic, and those kinds of things, while it may be a little challenging to believe, the addendum actually, the results of the addendum actually were that the impacts would be slightly less than if it were to be developed as a single family residential or multifamily development. So along with their recommendation, they also, Planning Commission also recommended the approval of the specific plan amendment and the development permit. I would be glad to answer any questions. I know that there's a lot here. And we also, like was mentioned, the property owner and applicant are here, and the environmental consultant as well.
Okay, thank you, Oliver. Before we get into council questions, Ms. City Clerk, I just wanted to amend the record here. The last item, I failed to close. I failed to close the public hearing. It was closed at 7:45 p.m. If you'd please take that note. And then, Ms. City Clerk, are there any public comments on this matter?
No, there are not.
Okay, Mr. Mulvihill.
Yes, Oliver, along there's single family along the northern boundary of it. Looks like about halfway along it. what kind of a buffer do you have between what's going to be a truck area, industrial area? What kind of a buffer do you have between the residential and the property?
If you may, Mitch, would you please move to the next slide, please? So this is the site plan, and so right now, as proposed, along that northern boundary from Tippecanoe all the way to the flood control channel, it will be 20-foot landscape buffer. There will be some trees planted along there, and again, and likewise, there will be a 20-foot buffer that surrounds the property, both on the south.
What kind of trees?
Oh, there will be dense. There will be evergreen type trees.
Okay.
And we could put if you want to put a size limit, we do normally require 24-inch box at about 45 feet on center. If it's the desire of the council, we could make that a 48-inch box. If something that's a little bit more mature, larger.
I think so. That particularly along where you have the residential areas. I think that'd be good.
Okay, so we will, so if I made that, so a suggestion would be that we amend the condition to include the 48-inch box. And if I may suggest that for clarification that we do it on 45 feet on center, if that would be fine?
That's fine, yeah.
Thank you. I only mentioned the 45 feet because those trees will have larger canopies, and I don't know how, you don't want to get them up on top of each other.
What side of the project area is that? Are you looking at, that's west, on the west side?
Northern boundary.
Northern boundary.
Northern boundary, okay.
The top part of the slide.
Is there a berm on that northern, on the landscaping? Is that a berm? What are the elevations look like on that baseline corridor?
It's not designed as a berm. There's kind of some combination of some ground covers, shrubs, some hardscapes, we're kind of to some extent required to do some drought tolerant landscaping kind of thing, but there are some pallets that are colorful and what have you. If we want to look at some mounding or some other features to give them some vertical features, we can include that as well.
My only concern on 48-inch is that it may crack the sidewalks, and it looks like you have multiple 24 trees there or more, or I can't count anyway.
If I may, on that, there on that northern boundary, Mitch, maybe if you wouldn't mind, maybe backing up a few slides to that aerial, if you'd be so kind. If you look here, so there, it's basically nothing. There isn't.
There is nothing. Okay, yeah. All right, got it. Okay, so there is no sidewalk. I was assuming that it was abutting up against baseline. Okay, perfect. Cool.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Along the same lines, so there's not going to be any kind of a wall or fence separating that property?
Yes, there is. There's going to be an 8 foot high.
Oh, okay. So
decorative block. Yes, it'll be decorative on both sides. Yes.
All right, trees and a wall. Okay.
Mayor, I have some questions as well.
Go for it.
Oliver, let me get this straight. Let me hear this one more time. You did a comparative analysis, and the environmental impacts of this project compared to the anticipated development are actually less than the anticipated development?
That is correct. It's not by a great amount, but when you take the and maybe if need be, Mr. Thomas can chime in on the environmental aspect of it. But my understanding and in reading the document is that when you take the 15 acres, develop it by our density, and gives you a number of residential units that you can have on that site. The traffic engineers do their calculations on how many trips go in and out over the course of the day, morning and evening peak hours, and of course over the course of the day. From the traffic analysis, that also allows them to do an analysis on the air quality and noise. And when you get that and you mix it all up with two comparisons, it came out that the addendum was actually less of an impact than the was originally planned.
And I also noticed you don't really have a zoomed out view of it, but I did some looking on Google Maps here, and surrounding it, there's RV storage, there are other auto services, and it looks to be like a bus service station or something like that.
That's a school
Is that accurate?
Bus. Yes.
Okay. What type of, so these aren't going to be trucks that are running with people sleeping in them overnight. This is just a storage type of trucking, correct?
That is correct. These are the ones that are serving our fulfillment centers that we have up, down Waterman and over by the airport.
And just to be clear, this type of zoning would not permit warehousing either, correct?
It would allow, with a conditional use permit.
Okay. All right.
A warehouse would require a separate entitlement.
Okay, so it would not be permitted.
It would come back to us.
It would have to
Okay,
come
good.
back.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that. Okay, so
Yes,
then
yes.
with that,
Is that your motion, move for approval?
yeah, you know what, then I'll go ahead and move to approve.
Second.
Okay, with the caveat of the 48-inch box by Mr. Mulvihill, are you okay with that, Mr. Figueroa?
Yes, to those requirements, that's fine.
Very good. Thank you. All
I have a
right.
question, Mayor.
Yes, council member.
Me? Okay.
Yes.
My concern right now, and maybe Mr. Mojica can clarify, we are looking at Tippecanoe south of Baseline. These are, you're talking about semi trucks parking there, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, my concern, and this is for anybody who drives on Tippecanoe already, that area has quite a bit of semi trucks driving through it. Are they going to help offset some of those potholes that are being created along Tippecanoe, since we're going to allow trucks to go in there?
They are doing the improvements along their frontage. Beyond that, that's not included in the conditions of approval.
Okay, so my concern is having all these trucks driving down Baseline, Tippecanoe to get there to that location and damaging our city streets. That's my concern on this one. On my end, I'll be voting no on it just for that reason.
Okay, all right. Any other members wishing to ask a question? If not, with that objection by Councilmember Ibarra, are there any other objections?
Mayor, I have to read the title of the ordinance.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, ordinance number 1532, ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of San Bernardino, California, approving specific plan amendment 19-01, changing the Waterman plus Baseline neighborhood transformation specific plan land use zone from neighborhood residential to employment of 3 parcels, APN 02878-051-08, 17 and 24, containing a total of approximately 15.39 acres located at 1066 North Tippecanoe Avenue, pursuant to an addendum to the final environmental impact report. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any final objections? With that noted on Councilmember Ibarra, if the city clerk would please make that notation. The item passes. Let's move on to, and it is about 8:01 p.m. that we're closing the public hearing on that item. Moving on to our consent calendar, let's poll the council members on items 3 through 8. Any polls? Councilmember Sanchez?
No polls.
Councilmember Ibarra?
No.
Councilmember Figueroa?
Number 8.
Councilmember Charette?
No.
Councilmember Nickel?
None.
Councilmember Richard?
None.
Councilmember Mulvihill?
None.
Move the balance.
Second.
Congratulations.
Okay, really quickly, who was the mover
I was. Fred.
and the seconder?
Juan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any objections? Please state it if you do object. All right, it's so ordered. Item number 8, I'm sorry, pulled by Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you. This will be quick, not necessarily to oppose the project, but here's the question, the concern, and issue with that area with Mountain View Avenue. I know that there are adequate signs exiting the freeway on Mountain View Avenue for trucks not to proceed north on Mountain View and for them to exit on Tippecanoe. However, I still get many phone calls from residents in that area that many of these trucks still exit Mountain View and then route themselves through Colston and through some of the residential streets. And there's an elementary school area, in that area that some of these trucks do drive through. So what I would like to ask is for us to ramp up our enforcement in that area when this starts. I know that there's adequate signage in that area, but many times these trucks don't respect some of these signs, and they do end up driving through some of these residential streets. So I'm just taking this opportunity to please just to reinforce the enforcement in that area, please. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
is that move for approval?
I will move to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Councilman Mulvihill on the second. Thank you. Any objections? Any objections? Discussion. All right. With no objections, the item has passed. Thank you, council members. All right, let's move on to items to be referred to committee. Mr. Nickel, you bring up some very good points. Before we get into that, I did have a conversation this evening with Supervisor Gonzalez, expressing my concerns and apprehensions regarding what I've been hearing through the community on the hotel build. I clearly told her that the city of San Bernardino would fight that opportunity, and we want to work with her, not certainly fight, but she was very understanding. Certainly Hospitality Lane poses a great challenge for them to come to our community, and I will be working with Terry and others to identify another alternate place. I also suggested that we include more of a representative outreach to all cities, that all cities should have an opportunity to provide at least one hotel in their community to house their homeless. Now, as Supervisor Gonzalez had said, Mayor, this is essentially the plan, that they're anticipating purchasing or contracting to bring 20 trailers to the Glen Helen Regional Park. And at that park, at the regional park, there are 20 utility hookups. At that park, the intention is to triage the county's homeless for COVID-19 in an effort to stem off any of that growing concerns in the homeless population. And she said that there is a 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 would then, who fit the criteria and would not threaten or pose the damage to a hotel, would then be would be triaged, that do not have COVID-19, would then go to a hotel in the community. Right now it's proposed Victorville would get a hotel, or there'd be a hotel in Victorville and a hotel in the city of San Bernardino. I again renewed my passion to have other alternatives, that all cities in our county need to offer up a hotel in their community to house their particular homeless individuals. Regarding the COVID-19, those that are identified then would be somehow triaged in those 20 trailers under strict protocols from the county public health officer. So the plan that she is proposing is still very in its infancy, and she doesn't have. I said, well, when are the trailers coming? And she didn't. She was working those final details. There's no delivery date. In fact, they have not even been purchased or contracted just yet. So I'll turn it over to Councilman Nickel. Councilman, you bring up some good points here. What committee would you like to refer this to, or would you just like to bring this back before a council?
Well, I think it needs to be part of an overall COVID-19 update that I would like to see. I know we'll be getting one at the next council meeting, but given the urgency of this matter, I would like to direct the city manager to take what steps are appropriate now to make it very clear to the county that we are objecting to the placement of these individuals in the city. This is an equity issue as far as I'm concerned. Victorville and San Bernardino have the highest per capita ratios of homeless to residents within the county. I think it's a simple equity issue, and I think it's also an issue of public health that needs to be addressed, that as we concentrate more and more homeless within the cities of San Bernardino and Victorville, what we're doing is we are contributing to what I think will be eventually a major crisis, not just in terms of displaced individuals, but potential public health issues as well. So I implore the county and would like to provide direction to the city manager to provide some type of an executive order or other correspondence to the county to express our concerns, and look at ways that we can work with the county to have a more equitable solution, and a solution that I think is more in keeping with the welfare of those individuals we're seeking to house, which is to distribute them more equitably to other cities within the county.
If I may, Mayor.
Yeah, Fred.
Henry, I agree with everything that you're saying, and I agree with you, John. I might argue that the point that you make about offering up, I don't think we offered up.
We did not.
Yeah, and so you're being very, very kind to say the other cities ought to offer up. We weren't even given the opportunity to offer up, and I think we ought to just absolutely do all we can to, again, work with the county. But this is a big county, and they've got a lot more resources than we have in our city, and to put it on Hospitality Lane, whether it's temporary or not, we don't need it. And
Terrible idea.
You know, in government, something that's temporary doesn't stay temporary for very long. It becomes permanent very quickly. So I don't support the county. We've been treated by the county badly enough for so many years, and we need to stand up and say absolutely no. Just absolutely, we'll work with you. We'll help you build something out in Adelanto. We'll help you build something out in the desert, out in Mojave, or wherever else, but we're not having it come into our city. We've got enough of it, and I just think we need to be very, very clear on that and not support it in any way, shape, or form, and just tell them that, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, well, I was pretty bold in the conversation with Supervisor Gonzalez tonight, which lasted about 12 minutes. She was very open, and she says, Mayor, you have every right to advocate for your city. In fact, I expect you to fight. So,
do we need a letter that we might all sign?
I'd like to.
I have a comment.
Can I finish mine, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I was very direct with the supervisor. I told her that we were going to fight it, that I wouldn't support it, and she understood clearly. Councilmember Richard.
Yes, thank you. So one of the things that happened, this happened very quickly. I believe we had a conference call last Thursday talking about this homeless crisis and what was happening. And the supervisor really talked about working with the city directly and to find out what the city wanted and not just dump on the city of San Bernardino. So our housing department, Maria Gallegos, is also, she sits on that committee. And so this just happened within the last couple of days. And I think that they looked at the hotel and just looking for places where they could house homeless individuals 65 years and older with chronic illnesses, not just everybody within the city of San Bernardino. So I think that before I agree with everybody. Everybody already knows that I agree that we are not the dumping ground. We are not the homeless city of San Bernardino. That has nothing to do with the economic future of our city, and especially down there on Hospitality Lane. But I believe this committee is willing to work with the city, and we just need to come forth and go to the meetings and talk about what's happening. And yes, we need to fight. We need to make sure that they're not housing people from other cities in our county, but other cities have also agreed to participate in this. So it was not just the city of San Bernardino. So moving forward, I think that there's a lot of conversations that need to be had, and they're not just dumping in on San Bernardino. I'm looking at the passion and everybody that is talking about you're not going to do this to our city. Absolutely. But what we have to do is come forth to the table and talk about what it is that we want and what we will do with our homeless population, because we do have a large homeless population. And like they cannot dump their homeless population on us, we cannot do the same to them. So we need to come to the table, discuss it, and have a good conversation about it, about what we want and what we want to see in our city, and especially not on Hospitality Lane. I think that's the wrong place for it.
Councilman Mulvihill.
Yeah, I've taken a look over at the Glen Helen area, and again, definitely not Hospitality Lane. That's a terrible location to put homeless population. Put them on the periphery of the city. And Glen Helen's got a lot of space out there. The city of Santa Ana has provided these large tents that are very accommodating for a population. And so I would just suggest that if we have something to offer, that they place it out around the Sheriff's Academy. You've got a lot of open space there. You've got, we can have the tents that are available, would be a lot less expensive than renting out a hotel. And they'd be outside the city, be not interfering with what our commercial areas happen to be.
Right.
Thank you. All
Yeah,
right.
one further comment, if I may, and it relates to, I think the simple question is this relevant or relative to COVID-19, or is this a homeless issue?
Well, that's a question. That's a
I think
question
they're
I
using
asked.
COVID-19 as an excuse or as an opportunity. So let's be careful not to let that happen.
But I also believe it's an opportunity for the city of San Bernardino to move forward and try to do something to work with our homeless population. They have secured, the ICH board has secured $2.5 million to do this. And I say that San Bernardino needs to be at the table. I go to these meetings. We don't see our police department there. We don't see our city staff there. And one of the reasons why I decided to say step up and I volunteered to be the Central Division chair was so that our city can sit at the table, because we're talking about things that are happening in our city, but we're not at the table. So now that we have Maria Gallegos at the table, she's a city staff member in our housing department. She's at the table. Next, we have to get our police department at the table. The sheriff's department is there. There's parole officers there in other cities within the county. There's code officers there. San Bernardino has the largest population and we don't sit at the table. And it's important for us to sit at the table. So I was happy to garner that seat so one of our staff members can be there all the time and talk about the needs of the city of San Bernardino and just not let them dump on us. But we garnered $2.5 million. Let's talk about what we need to secure, or not to secure, but to talk about the people that are homeless, 65 years plus, with these conditions, pregnant women that we can house, not necessarily on Hospitality Lane, but we can surely come up with a plan of what San Bernardino can do with their homeless population. We have to address it.
Let's go to Sandra Barr, and I think yes, council member.
Yes, so last year when I was in the ICH, we were discussing a program that the county has called Inroads. They are outreaching out into the communities that welcome them. And I had mentioned it last year at one of the council meetings that it would be nice for our own police officers, police department to partner up with the county with Inroads. However, that never got taken up. And maybe that's something that maybe our city manager can look into, possibly doing a contract with Inroads. I know we have Step Up on Second right now, but I don't know if that's really helping the situation within our city. But if we can bring in Inroads to help with the homeless population, that would be amazing. I know it's a 50-50 within our police department, whether or not they want help from the county. But that would be something that we would definitely need to visit as soon as possible. I do know that $2.5 million is directly related to the COVID pandemic that we're facing right now. However, I did listen to the press conference from the Department of Public Health, and they were very specific that they were looking for 2 locations only within the county to take the homeless population. One of them, they said, would be in the high desert and the other one in the valley. At that point, they didn't disclose where. So with that said, we need to send a strong, and I agree with my colleagues, we need to send a strong message to the county that every city has to help with this situation, not just our city. It does not matter where it is. As is, we don't have enough beds to house our current homeless right now. We are getting homeless from other cities into our city. And I had made a couple of last year also, I was at a conference and 2 council members from other cities were bragging to me about how they sent their homeless to the east. We are the last stop for them currently. And one idea, I like what Santa Ana did with the neighboring cities that were taking or dropping them off into their city. They filed a lawsuit against those cities and were able to build a nice big facility with that money. And I think that's something that our city should also look into. If that's the route that the county wants to do, or the other neighboring cities, maybe we should start asking them to pay up front to house the homeless and to give them the treatment and the attention that they deserve to get out of the situations they're in. I mean, I just want to put that out there, and hopefully we start talking about it more.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all for me.
Comments, Councilman?
Yes. Yes. Oh, Juan, were you going up next?
Go ahead, Councilman Sanchez.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, if we haven't mentioned it already in concert with this, I would like to direct the city manager, the city attorney, and the police chief to draft a letter expressing our concerns to the county, specifically that we don't want our city to be the dumping ground for the whole county's homeless population. So if you guys are amenable to that, can we add that to our direction to the staff? Would that be fine with
I
everyone?
think that's part of it, Ted.
All right, that works.
And in fact, the letter from July of 2018, signed by Kerry Davis, probably could be copy and pasted a little bit more forcefully. I remember that Kerry Davis signed a letter, and it wasn't quite impactful or forceful, but I think we need to have some teeth on it. All right. Any other comments?
I have a comment dealing with fiscal matters.
Okay. Councilman, what would you like to add to the committee?
Okay, well, I've already spoken with with the city manager, but I think we need to really get a fiscal report on the situation in the city, given the present health emergency. You know, there's been discussion that obviously it's affected hotels, so that's our transit occupancy tax. Our sales taxes are down. Word is that CalPERS is not meeting its projections, and those extra costs are going to be falling on the cities, us, and there's some serious negative implications of this. And so I really want to see a fairly thorough examination of just what our fiscal status is at this particular point in time.
Okay, thank you. Any objections? All right, thank you. Okay, reports from committee members.
Report from Terry on that?
Yes, I'm sorry, Fred.
Well, I think Terry was trying to say something about
Oh, I'm sorry, Terry.
No, I just wanted to say, as I reported in your up to date, I'm working on a report for you. We do understand that this is a crisis, and it's going to impact the city greatly. So we are working on a report for the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Super.
Councilmember Ibarra, did you raise your hand? Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead. Oh, unmute yourself. There you go.
Sorry about that. Okay, I have a concern right now. I don't know if everybody saw, but Omnitrans was providing free public transportation during the pandemic. My concern is I'm not sure how many people are actually using those free bus rides currently, and if Omnitrans is maintaining the buses disinfected. Because as we are aware, one of the nursing homes in Yucaipa has already 51 confirmed cases in just their facility. All it takes is one carrier to have the virus to pass it on to the population. So that's my concern on Omnitrans, Mayor, if you can just point it out to them next time you have a meeting with them. The other one of our public speakers actually mentioned it, and I think it's only fair that we do this. The director for animal shelter, they need to know what happened with the original search. It was closed back in February. And if we didn't find a qualified applicant, if we can once again open up the job search, that would be something we can start working on for the director of search for the animal shelter services. And I believe that is all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Ibarra. Terry?
Yeah, I can actually speak to the animal control director position. We did go out for a recruitment. We did hold some interviews. We were not successful in finding a candidate. We are going to be hiring a recruiter so we can start the process over again. And we're looking for an interim to cover in the meantime. But obviously, with the state we're in right now, it's very difficult to do those things, but we are working on them.
Can we open up the job search again?
That's what we're going to do through a recruiter. Yes.
How much is the recruiter going to cost our city manager?
I don't have a price yet. We were getting bids, but we weren't successful.
And that would come up.
I'm sorry.
I would recommend that our staff open it up regardless, with or without a recruiter.
That's what we did, and we weren't successful. We went through the whole process, and we came down to 4 candidates, and we were not able to successfully get a candidate. So we want to hire a recruiter this time, so be more successful. We're working on that.
Is there a reason why we couldn't do both concurrently, open it up again and do the other as well? You know, just open it up and.
I can certainly HR, sure. You mean leave it up on our website so folks can continuously apply and then also have a recruiter?
Correct. I don't see why, you know, just opening it up on our website, because it's currently not on the website, correct?
That's correct, because it closed.
Okay.
I can more about that, certainly.
So yeah, I would second Councilmember Ibarra's request to open it up.
All right, any objections? You can bring that back on a staff report, Terry. That's okay. Or if you want, if there's no, I guess you have direction.
Thank you.
All right.
I have one last item to add to the agenda.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Yes, I'd like to direct staff to come back with an ordinance appointing the city manager, the executive of the office of the city attorney, the mayor, and the city clerk. Do I need to discuss? So
yeah, go ahead.
Right now, so we want to create a delineation of the chain of command for staff in the city attorney's office, the city clerk's office, and the mayor's office. Because right now there's staff that work in all 3 offices who aren't sure who they answer to. So I would like us to bring forward an ordinance that clarifies that and has the city manager appointed as the executive for the staff in all 3 of those offices.
I'll make a comment on that. I'd like to. I'm not so sure about city attorney and city clerk at this time, but I certainly think that the council office ought to also be included. We've got 2 staffers in there that they're doing a great job, but they're answering to 7 different people, and we don't know who's doing their evaluations or who's doing their scheduling. I know that the city manager works pretty closely with them, but I think it'd be a smart thing to do to make it more official so that they really know for sure exactly who they answer to and who their boss is.
If I may, Mayor.
Yep, please.
I would just like to state that the city attorney's office is different. Now that the elected city attorney is no longer in office, we do have employees in that office who really don't know who they report to at this point because we have a contract city attorney. So to me, that makes perfect sense. The city clerk, we will have, as you know, we're going to have interviews coming up. We will have an appointed city clerk who will be a full-time employee in that office, and it would make sense for that person to oversee their own staff. I would just like to offer that to you.
Thank you.
I can support that.
Okay, so so then I would amend my motion to have the ordinance reflect having the city attorney, the city manager be the executive for the city attorney's office and the mayor's office.
Is there a second?
Fred, if we throw in the council office, you vote for it?
I said that.
Yeah.
I'd like to add on, if I may. I think instead of having a contract city attorney off, how about we just start hiring? We have that right under the charter that we appoint a city attorney. We have currently BB&K, which is a contract, but I think it would be nice to actually hire a city attorney so they also look over their own staff as well. No? Anybody understand?
Let's go back to what Theodore had to say.
What was that?
Theodore, say again what you were talking about, the whole putting the staff of the mayor's office and the council office under the city manager, correct?
Yeah, and as well as the city attorney's office's staff, city staff.
Okay.
Isn't that one of the requests that we asked for last meeting? We asked the city manager to look at the staff of the mayor's office to see what was going on with the city staff, where they were at, and who they reported to. I believe that was all a part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you make an amendment to that, but yes, we're open to finding out who it's very important who you report to. So, You know,
I'd like
but
to-
I think that we already asked that question last week, or somewhat a portion of that.
If I may, Mayor,
Go ahead.
I'd like to clarify. At the last meeting, what you did was you asked that the budget for the mayor's office staff, except for the executive assistant, be transferred to the city manager's office. So we are working on that. And once we did that, we would have to reclassify those employees to a different title. That's what we're working on. That's different than.
Yes.
Okay.
Office. But if you're going to do it with these others, that you need to talk about authority under an ordinance.
All right, Fred, well, we got a deal?
I don't make deals.
Okay, all right, let's.
I'm supportive of it. I'm
Council,
supportive of it,
I
but
that's the motion I made.
I'll second that. I'll second
So
it.
we'll give, Terry, you have direction. All right, are there any final
No,
items?
no. I think we need clarification. We need clarification.
No, I just have one more comment, and all this goes along, and Theodore, yes, I'm on board with those three
Okay.
offices, making her executive, working closely with the people that are in those offices. But we also have to deal with this at budget time, because budgets are coming up, and what Jim just talked about, we're going to be really, really struggling. So we're going to have to deal with some of these positions perhaps during the budget discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Move to second.
Jim, I think we have consensus. She knows what direction she's gonna get. Okay, so at this time, I wanted to say thank you to all of our city employees. I want to send my deep appreciation to our city manager and her staff. I want to say thank you to all of our nearly 1,000 employees that are facing this crisis with us. Our police officers and first responders, thank you very much for ensuring the public safety of our community. We stand ready to take on this challenge, and I have very good confidence in our city council that you'll join me in making those resources and tools available to our city manager. With that, we'll go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting. Our next meeting will be a virtual meeting on Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. Thank you.